This is the Russian tie system that helped PJ Duke become a world team member as a high schooler. These are the 4 ways PJ gets to the Russian tie. First is off his opponent's shots. This works best when your opponent hits a single leg. My partner shoots it on a single, I'm gonna sprawl, and I'm turning my hip down to the mat. My left hand has a whizzer, hooking up into the armpit. My right hand is gonna drop to the wrist as I circle into him and get right to my Russian tie position. Okay? Even if he has my leg, the act of me sprawling and turning my hip down this way makes his arm slip off my leg and makes it easy for me to take my free hand and grab the wrist and wrestle right into that Russian tie position. You're gonna also notice that a lot of times when people shoot on PJ, he's looking for an arm drag go behind. I'll show you what that looks like real quick. So he goes to shoot in, I sprawl and turn the hip down. Instead of the hand grabbing the wrist, so circle in front a little bit more. Instead of the hand grabbing the wrist, the free hand reaches up to the tricep or the bicep, and then his left hand reaches to the back, and he circles and just gets the go behind like that.
Here's a handful of examples of PJ Duke going to his go behind. Most of the time, it's when his opponents hit a single leg. He hustles, he's looking for a drag. And a lot of times, like I said earlier, if he misses this, he'll be right in a position to grab a Russian tie.
Now the nice thing is, if he misses this arm drag go behind, so you go to shoot in, sprawls, turns his hip down, opens his hips up. If he misses the arm drag go behind, as his opponent comes up to his feet, he can just let go of the back and go right back to the Russian tie position and wrestle from there. The second way PJ gets to his Russian tie position is off of his opponent's underhook. When my opponent digs an underhook, I'm gonna crank down on my overhook and get my head right into the shoulder that is directly connected to that underhook position. I'm gonna try to slide off this underhook as much as possible by turning my chest and thumb blocking on his bicep. Right when his arm's about to come off my lat, I'm gonna take my free hand, reach up, grab the wrist, pull it across my chest, and come right to that Russian tie positioning. If I'm on the outside, with my hand that's on the wrist, I like to let go and rotate and bring it on the inside. Show that again from this angle. So my partner has an underhook, get head position, slide it down to his shoulder, and loosen up this underhook as much as possible by not only cranking down, but thumb blocking it off. Then my free hand reaches across, grabs the wrist, I pull it in front of my chest, hugging it tight to my body, and I switch to my traditional Russian tie positioning, where my left hand is high up into his armpit, my right hand is hugging the wrist tight to my chest. The third way PJ gets to the Russian tie is when he's cutting his opponent, and I think this might be the #1 way he gets to that position. This one's super simple. I just took Will down. Now I'm coming out front. My left hand is grabbing the tricep. My right hand's grabbing the wrist. I'm keeping the distance close so he doesn't have a lot of space to back away or hand fight out. And I just go right to my Russian tie position. And I can immediately go to another attack. So I'll show you what that looks like all the way through. I shoot in, I get my takedown, I go to cut him, but as I cut him, I'm grabbing the tricep and coming right to my Russian tie position. And this is great, even if you don't like a Russian tie, whatever your specific system is, whatever technique you like, when you cut someone, you should be looking to get exactly to your tie-up and not give your opponent space to regroup where you have to go really hard to get to your tie-up and shoot. The fourth way PJ gets to the Russian tie is when his opponents grab his wrist. So Will's gonna grab my wrist, I'm gonna take my elbow and put it to his elbow. As I do that, that alone will loosen the grip up almost till it pops out. So me bringing my elbow to his elbow can a lot of times pop the grip off of my wrist. But then when I add the addition of my hand punching at his wrist with an open hand like this, some people do weird stuff where they're pushing it sideways. I want to grab it, the C grip, and punch straight down. So I add those two together. My elbow comes into him, into his elbow, as I punch, and then this left hand is going to slide right up to the Russian tie position. I'll adjust as needed and go to my attacks. One more time. If you guys are enjoying this instructional video and you want access to over 75 full-length instructional videos, including some from Josiah Fry, Caitlin Jarrow, Stefan Michik, Rial Woods, Mike Ross, and so much more, just click the link in the description and join the Iron Faith Academy today. Now let's dig into what type of takedowns is PJ looking for once he gets to the Russian tie position. The first one is an inside trip. So I get my Russian tie on my opponent, high up in his armpit and grabbing his wrist. I'm gonna hit this technique when my opponent's more square on me. If we're in the hip-to-hip position, this is not a position where you're gonna be able to hit this inside trip from. Your opponent's gonna be square to you and facing you, and there's gonna be some space between his legs. So his legs are a little bit more spread, he's square facing you. This is the exact position I'm looking for to hit this inside trip. What I'm gonna do is take the Russian tie, push it across his chest, and then my near leg is going to step and wrap around his near leg. So I'm here, I push the arm across, I step in, wrap my leg around, and my head goes to the same side that my leg is wrapped. And I drive him to his butt. I'm trying to get a chest-to-chest connection. So when I'm here and I push the arm across, my chest is trying to come to his chest. So my leg sticks straight through the middle, wraps around, and my chest tries to hit him in the chest. I want to get off my back knee, drive off my toes, and drive him back to his butt. Show another angle of this from over here. Another thing I'll do is my back leg will step in before I hit the technique. So my leg that's back will step in before I step my forward leg in, because I don't want to do a big split here because it's very difficult to get a takedown. So my back leg steps in, push the arm across, I'm throwing this leg through, and notice I'm not touching my foot to the mat. Throwing this leg through and I'm going right to my knee. My head changes to the same side as the knee. I go double and drive him back to his butt. Now if I do this and he steps out, all I'm gonna do is switch to a double leg and finish the double leg takedown. So I get the Russian tie, my partner's squared up with me a little bit. I'm stepping in, throwing his arm across the body, sweeping in. If he steps out, I'm just gonna switch to a double leg, step through, fix my positioning, lift through, and finish the takedown. Make sure you fix your positioning when they step out. So if I go Russian tie and I push this arm across, I step in and I come to this position. Once he steps out, my legs aren't in the right position to finish the double. I need to switch my knees so my outside leg is up and I can step across and finish the double leg takedown.
Here's a couple examples of the inside trip. This one's a great one where he has to double off when his opponent kind of steps out. He does this quite often. Here's another example of inside trip, going right to that double leg, finishing it. Last examples from a different tie-up than a Russian tie. I just wanted to kind of include it in there.
The next takedown is going to be a cross ankle pick. I get to the Russian tie position. This time, my opponent is stepping this leg back, and I'm noticing that this far leg, the one that's further away from me, is free to attack. When I'm in that position, I'm gonna drop my hand that's closer to the wrist, and I'm looking for the back of his shoe. As I do that, I'm dropping to my right knee and capturing that ankle at the same time. So I'm here, let go of the wrist, drop down to here. My head goes into the head position right next to his knee, and I finish off collecting a double. Show a couple different angles of that. I'm in the Russian tie position. He steps this leg back. I see the far leg is closer. I'm dropping down to my knee. I'm letting go of the hand that's on the wrist, and I'm grabbing the heel. Oh, my head's going in good head position. I'll then let go of the Russian tie and look to finish double. Let's go this angle here. I have the Russian tie. I notice that far leg is open. I'm gonna drop down to that knee and collect in here. Oh. Good. A lot of times I see PJ hit this when people are backing up. So he's getting the Russian tie, going to get the Russian tie on me. A lot of people, they're backing away, trying to create space by pushing on the head. They're backing away. And as they back away, their far leg becomes the lead leg. So if I'm wrestling here, most people are righties, so their right leg's forward. But as I switch to here, if Will tries to back away and face me, it gives me the opportunity to drop in, finish on that low double position.
I want to point out two things that PJ Duke does really well. One, he makes sure his opponent can't step his leg back by really leaning and putting a lot of weight on the foot that he's going to attack. The second thing he does, which we're going to see in the next two clips, is he'll make his opponent step. Not only does that bring it foot forward, but it puts weight on that foot so he can attack that cross ankle and finish the technique.
The third takedown is a Russian tie to an outside trip. And you're gonna notice in these clips that PJ hits this technique in a couple different variations. So I have my Russian tie. This time my opponent has his near leg a little bit closer and I'm able to attack that one. In general, what you're noticing here, whatever leg's closer, that's the one I'm normally gonna go to and attack. And if you're able to attack both the near leg and the far leg, you're gonna be able to score no matter what your opponent does. So when I'm in this position, I see that near leg's closed, I'm just gonna take my near leg, the one that's closer to him, and hook it behind his foot. From here, I prefer attacking behind the knee and adding the knee pick. So I go here, I attack the knee, I'm pulling down and finishing through. So I got the Russian tie position here, I'm hooking behind his heel, I'm reaching and grabbing his knee, and I'm pulling down on the Russian tie with my left hand. So this hand's high up in the armpit, I'm hooking, I'm pulling down, and I'm catching through like that. Like you noticed in the clips, there's different ways this can happen, right? PJ did it from the bundle position as well. You reach across, you bundle the arms in. Same thing, I hook behind, I attack, and I finish through. He's also hitting it in more when his opponent's moving, and that when his opponent's moving, you can actually catch him kind of just with the foot sweep and without having to grab the knee. So if I'm here and I'm circling and he's moving, you can catch that foot as he steps off of it. All I gotta do is just add pulling down on the shoulder. So I circle, he's circling, yep, boom, and then I pull down on the shoulder. I think most of the time you're gonna see him attack the knee because that timing is really difficult to do where you just hit a foot sweep from that position, okay? The last way you'll see PJ hit this is his opponents might give an overreaction. They may sprawl down to their knees or jump backwards, and that will leave him an opportunity for a go behind. So I'm here in a Russian tie. I'm looking for that outside foot sweep. He's down on the mat now. I can hustle behind and get my go behind. But again, I would say the number one way he's hitting this technique, based on all the clips I reviewed, was where he's hooking behind and then attacking the knee with his hand that was previously on the wrist.
Check out a couple examples of PJ Duke hitting this technique. Most of the time, he's hitting that knee pick after he foot sweeps. Sometimes he doesn't have to, and then sometimes his opponents will react and he'll go to that go behind position. One more time with the go behind, tries to foot sweep, hustles one way, hustles the other, gets the score.
The next takedown you're gonna see PJ do is a Russian tie to a Shuck-by. I have my Russian tie positioning, I'm high up in the armpits. The key with this technique is you wanna get both hands above the elbow. So if my opponent's posting on my head and I try this Shuck-by by letting go of the hands in the armpit, reaching up and trying to Shuck-by in this position, there's a lot of ways Will can attack. He can not only just attack me, but you're gonna have a lot of time controlling him by just having his wrist. So when I'm in this Russian tie position, before I go for the Shuck-by, I'm gonna climb the hand that's on the wrist as high up as possible above the elbow. Then I'm gonna grab the lat. I'm gonna circle hip to hip. Very often you're gonna see people throw their near leg in between their legs to get their hands to touch the mat and then get the go behind. You don't have to do that, but again, that's something that you'll see very common where you're here, climb both hands above the elbow, hug the Russian tie tight to your chest, reach for the lat, step your left leg forward, your right leg back, almost like you're setting up a hip toss, and you're just gonna swing your near leg in between his legs to get his hands to touch, and then cover behind for the takedown. You can also not do that and just kind of go hip to hip and kind of bump his hips. So I can also just bump his hips here. I don't have to throw my leg in between, but I think throwing your leg in between allows you to be closer to your opponent, right? The closer I am to him, the easier the Shuck-by is. The further I am away, the easier it is for him to circle and face me. So if you can stay close to his body, you can get close, your hips close to his, or even, you know, with the leg in between, your hips are underneath of his. It's very easy to just turn your head and slip off of that hand that's posted on your head.
I would say this is the number one way to score from the Russian tie. We're gonna check out a few different ways this position develops. One where he goes to kick, doesn't really feel it, and just goes for a go behind here. So he kind of kicks up, takes his leg out, and just scooches behind. Then a last example here, where he actually finds himself in the Merkle position, where he rolls his opponent to his back, and ends up staying in bounds to get the takedown.
Last takedown from the Russian tie is just a single leg. Once I get to this Russian tie positioning, a lot of times with the single leg, they can't have great head positioning. Okay, so if Will's head is in good position here, it's very difficult to attack underneath of him, because anytime I lower my level, he's gonna be able to down block and get his head in the way. So a lot of times there's a little bit of space maybe, or maybe you have head position, and that's gonna work a lot better to attack that single leg. So I'm here, maybe there's a little bit of space, maybe I bumped him across so I got head position. All I'm doing is shooting straight into the single leg. You'll notice you don't have to clear his arm. You can shoot straight in, and if his arm gets caught in the way, it's not gonna help him defend the shot. So I'm here at the Russian tie. I like to get head position for this specific shot. I'm dropping my knee behind his heel, snatching right in, and finishing the shot. There are a lot of different variations you can do with this. You can also do that outside trip where you hook and just drop right in. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways you can hit this, but in general, you're pulling that Russian tie, you see the single leg there, you're just taking a big step in and dropping off to that single, good head position, and finishing on your feet.
Watch how you can shoot this single leg without pushing the arm out of the way. You can shoot straight through, trapping the arm actually, and making the single leg maybe even easier to finish because they can't get their arm out.
Now, because you stayed till the end, I'm gonna give you 4 bonus moves that PJ used in his wrestling. You'll notice, yes, it's good to have a #1 tie-up and some great attacks from there. But a lot of great wrestlers also have a handful of other shots they'll attack to if they can't get that Russian tie positioning or that tie-up they like. And here's a few. First, PJ Duke goes underhook position. He'll get to the underhook and he'll hit a hip toss. So he's in this underhook position. He may have his opponent's wrist. He may have their inside tie here, higher up in the tricep. I personally notice the higher you are up on the arm, the more leverage you have, and it's easier to flip them over. So I have around his back with a hip toss. Instead of having a short underhook, we're gonna wrap around and grab his hip. I'm stepping my left leg across, but not too far. I'm not doing a split here. I like to put my foot right on the inside of his foot, and then I take my back leg and I step it in, and I'm trying to push my hip into him. Like I'm shifting my hip and leaning my body the opposite way. Push my hip through, then I can lift him up and twist him over. Once I lift him up, whatever hand has the underhook or is grabbing around the back, that shoulder is trying to point to the mat. The other hand that has the tricep is trying to pull, and that shoulder is trying to go up to the ceiling. Boom, just like that. So I'm here, I get to my underhook position, I grab the wrist, higher up in the tricep is more ideal. I'm stepping straight into him. My hips are pushing across, and I'm stepping my back leg in, lifting, twisting over. When you get good with this throw, you actually don't even have to step in super deep. You can hit it straight on here. I could throw Will by stepping right here if I have to. It's about getting your hip in. So even if I do a little bit shorter of a step, if I get my hip in, I can pull him up onto me. It's about getting him on top of me. So ideally, if your foot goes across more, it's a little easier. But if I step straight into him, I can just pop him up on top of me like that and then throw him over.
Here's a couple examples of PJ Duke hitting the hip toss, some without even having the opposite arm.
The next takedown is an underhook to a knee pick. So maybe that hip toss not here, maybe this leg's back or his butt's back a little bit, right? And I can't step in to throw. Well, the knee pick's right there. I'm just gonna throw the underhook up to the ceiling, across his body, and I'm gonna attack that knee pick. So I'm here, his right leg's back in this case. I'm gonna punch that arm across and just run him down. And this one's very similar to the cross ankle he already hits from the Russian, where he's kind of dropping and attacking that far foot. So it's very easy for him to just pick a different tie-up and hit the exact same technique. So I'm here in the underhook position. I notice that the far leg is open for an attack. I'm stepping toe-to-toe with my outside leg. I'm punching the arm across, grabbing behind the knee, and running him straight back over top.
Watch the way PJ Duke does this technique from a front headlock position, snapping underneath, getting the underhook, and then driving through on that knee pick.
Next takedown is an inside trip from over-unders. He already hits the inside trip from the Russian tie. He also hits it from this over-under position. And to tell you the truth, the Russian tie the inside trip is way more common from an overhook than it is from a Russian tie. So I have an overhook position here. Everything's the same as what we explained earlier. I take my back leg, I step in, I wrap my inside leg straight through and around, hit my knee, switch off to that double where my head's on the same side, and drive them over. One more time with this, and make sure you guys have the head on the same side. So my head's on the same side of this overhook here. I'm here, I step my back leg in, wrap and drop, drive forwards, finish that inside trip. Last bonus move I have is dropping off to a double here. So you're in this over-underhook position. And again, if you notice, these bonus moves, I'm showing you kind of 2 attacks from these positions, right? So he has these other tie-ups he feels comfortable from, and depending on what look he's getting from his opponent, he can hit either of these attacks. So he can go inside trip, but he also will drop off to a double from here. So I loosen up the underhook by leaning on it, by pushing it off a little bit with a thumb block, right on the bicep, and right when this hand's loosened up enough, or this underhook is loosened up enough, I can drop off to a double. My shoulder's gonna shift down to his bicep, and I can hit my knee or not, but I'm lowering to the 2 legs and attacking across. You want that underhook to loosen up so much, so it's naturally deep, but it loosens up so much that when Will goes to shoot, my arm gets trapped to my side here, and it's hard to wrestle out of that position. So if you guys don't want to get lat dropped, you don't really feel comfortable in this position, you don't like the throws, you don't like the inside trips, this is going to be perfect. You're just going to lean onto that overhook or underhook. You're going to loosen up by thumb blocking it. Once it's loose enough, your shoulder's going to slide down the bicep, and you're going to attack into a double leg and finish through.
What allows PJ Duke to hit this technique without getting lat dropped is having his chest very low on the underhook side.
If you enjoyed that video, make sure to check out my personal wrestling system that I used when I was back in college by clicking the video right in the center. And I'll see you guys in the next instructional.